Welcome back to another episode of Marvel Man 901. So today is Spider-Man Day. So naturally I'm going to talk about 3 different comics of Spider-Man. I'm going to talk about the character called Blackout, and I'm going to talk about DC's Aquaman. So I'm going to start off with Amazing Spider-Man issue 391. This is the second part of Shrieking, which is basically about Shriek escaping Ravencroft with Malcolm McBride, who was previously known as Carrion. She naturally believes that they are basically mother and son, but she wants to get her son, Carrion, back out of this human. So she tries every different way she can imagine, basically, tricking him, hurting him, like she does, basically. Anyway, Spider-Man learns of this, that they had escaped, or at least she had, and of course he had to stop her. So he basically managed to track her down, and the thing about Spider-Man at this time is that he's basically just finished with being Peter Parker. Everything that has happened to him, the whole pursuit thing with his fake parents and all that, it's hurt him so much that he has to basically just push Peter Parker away. So he's just being Spider-Man, being very raw, very brutal, and when he actually fights Shriek, he is really just getting dirty even. I mean, he really beats her. Only though he actually does fail to prevent her from bringing back Carrion, as Carrion naturally got back, and is almost ends the story. This is basically just a little sidetrack here with Mary Jane obviously having difficulty with both May Parker and Peter Parker not actually dealing with the whole situation. And she kind of confronts May, and May basically tells her off that I've been through so many bad things in my life that I have to pretend that they don't actually happen. Kind of. Later on, Mary Jane basically goes to visit or maybe even apologize, only to find May basically lying on the kitchen floor collapsed. Alright, so in the next issue I'm going to talk about is Spider-Man issue 48. This is the third part of Beware the Rage of a Desperate Man. This storyline is basically about Hobgoblin, or Mackindale, trying to enhance himself through the whole Craven thing, basically using the same methods that Craven the Hunter had. So he had gone to Craven's son in Russia, gotten this treatment that would actually supposed to have killed him. At least that's what Craven's son wanted. Apparently though, there was some kind of special enzyme or something like that in Mackindale's body, which basically enabled this thing to actually happen the way that Mackindale wanted it to. So Mackindale is of course happy that it's happened, that this worked. He's much stronger now, much more powerful, and he basically just gave the journal to Craven's son, as he had promised earlier on. Then he goes back to New York to fight the Demogoblin. Now these two obviously have a big past, and basically they're gonna probably continue to fight each other until at least one of them is dead. Now Spider-Man at the same time is after Demogoblin, basically because Demogoblin had escaped Rikers Island, I believe, and almost actually corrupted Spider-Man in the previous issue. Now, however, Mackindale, or Hobgoblin, is very powerful. He fights both Spider-Man and Demogoblin at the same time and defeats Demogoblin pretty easily, actually, ending this story. Alright, so I'm gonna go to 1965 now with Amazing Spider-Man issue 27. So in this issue, Spider-Man, from the previous issue naturally, he had been captured by Green Goblin and basically placed in front of the gangs of New York, Crime Master, and the Green Goblin naturally. Eventually though, he does actually manage to escape, or basically bust out of his chains and fight these gangs, Green Goblin and the Crime Master at the same time. The two villains realize that, shit's hit the fan basically, so we need to escape. So they do, even though Spider-Man almost catches Crime Master, but he still gets away. However, he is actually arrested by some police officers on a roof, and is actually revealed to be Nick Lewis. Spider-Man previously believed that Frederick Foswell, otherwise known as the big man of the Enforcers, was actually behind this whole thing, but apparently Foswell had already figured out, eventually at least through his own investigation, that Nick Foswell was the Crime Master. So we're going to talk about today's character. This is Blackout, the first Blackout, not to be confused with the villain called Blackout as well from the Ghost Rider comics. Blackout's real name is Marcus Daniels, and he was introduced in Nova 19. So apparently from some exposure of an unknown cosmic radiation, he had basically gone kind of fused in a way with the Dark Force. This is of course the Dark Force dimension that the Cloak uses, and Dark Star among others. However, Blackout had previously been basically trapped inside the Dark Force dimension, and it kind of caused him to go somewhat insane and kind of unhinged. However, Baron Zemo later on would actually use this to basically take control over this supervillain, using him in the Masters of Evil, I think the 4th lineup. Basically used him to kind of seal off the whole Avengers Mansion, and then this whole thing with these supervillains. Basically, they almost killed Hercules among others. Anyway, during this, Dr. Druid, who was an Avenger at the time, basically managed to break through to Blackout that he was being used by Baron Zemo. And from the strain of resisting the mental commands of Baron Zemo, Marcus Daniels, or Blackout, basically died by cerebral hemorrhage. So he's a very interesting character. He's kind of a small-time villain, though, even though he's actually kind of powerful. Okay, so I'm gonna go to DC now with the last issue I'm gonna talk about. This is Aquaman issue 23 from 1965. So in this issue, Mera is pregnant with Aquaman's baby, later would be known as Aqua Baby. Apparently, there's some kind of rare malady in Aquaman's family that the mother, or the pregnant wife, basically had to have a certain serum in order to survive giving birth. Apparently, Aquaman's mother had this serum when he was born and thereby actually survived. Aquaman and Aqualad goes out to find this serum in this very strange, dangerous place, and then there they actually fight this supervillain, or kind of supervillain anyway, known as Sinqu, who apparently had this serum, and after him being defeated, he gave the serum to Aquaman. However, he actually had made a slight twist to this serum, which actually, granted, Mera survived the giving birth. However, Aqua Baby had been given some kind of powers which were basically dangerous, and which actually eventually led to Aquaman's family being basically exiled from Atlantis. However, in their exile, they basically stopped this mutant horde from basically attacking Atlantis, saving Atlantis overall. This fight that Aqua Baby basically had with these mutants kind of led to the powers going away. So naturally, Aquaman and his family were brought back to Atlantis yet again. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Do subscribe and share this if you like this. Naturally, all of this is Marvel's and DC's creations. I'm only telling the story. So have a good day and stay safe.